right, YouTube, coming to you at Detroit's pt2. This is my second part on White Boy Rick and how he was the biggest informant ever in the history of Detroit. Or I don't know, this is before 6ix9ine and all the rest of them ratting. But this story is deep because you're gonna see how the judicial system used him, like to be a paid informant by the police at 14. And then guys on the east side, little young white boy with 8 birds, they got police written all over it. You know what I mean? On the west side, in certain places, if you see a black guy with a white guy, that got police written all over. This ain't power or empire. You know what I'm saying? This ain't that TV shit. We don't really be hanging out with them like that in Detroit. Check this out.
Welcome back. Rick Wershe acknowledges his crimes and he has served his time, but also points out that murderers and rapists have served less time than he has.
Because remember, he was convicted as a nonviolent juvenile offender. In fact, the parole board routinely releases criminals arrested for carjackings, drive-by shootings, attempted murders, and other violent crimes after 10 to 15 years.
That's what's really hard to comprehend. Why is Wershe still in prison when violent offenders have been paroled? You're about to hear from a former member of the Michigan Parole Board who is troubled by the board's actions in the Wershe case.
They stab people in prison and commit violent acts in prison, catch another case in prison, and they're paroled. Why am I so different?
To find out why, we went to Robert Aguirre, a retired police officer who also served on the parole board. The problem is, he can't figure out why violent offenders are getting out of prison and Wershe isn't.
I've released people who were armed robbers, some who had committed a murder. So why not him? And that's a great question. I don't know.
He says the single drug charge and a single car theft case are classified as nonviolent crimes. Aguirre says keeping Wershe locked up is cruel and unusual punishment.
I voted to have Rick Wershe released. It made sense. There was no reason in this world that he should still be there.
There are currently 10 members on the parole board. We went to a public hearing and were told cameras are not allowed inside. The members are appointed and close to $100,000 a year. In 2003, the board did not parole after Wershe's one and only hearing. In 2010, Robert Aguirre insisted on another vote.
The board voted not to allow him to have another public hearing.
In 2012, board member Barbara Sampson reviewed the file again and refused to give Wershe a hearing, saying they would take another look in 2017. So Wershe sits and sits longer than any nonviolent offender locked up as a juvenile in Michigan history. The cost to taxpayers, approximately $800,000. Former parole board member Robert Aguirre attended Wershe's hearing last week as an observer in support of his release. He sent a lengthy letter to current board members detailing why he thinks they should vote to approve his parole hearing this time around.
Well, lights, camera, action, Hollywood is all over the White Boy Rick story.
This year can bring some exciting things. Are you planning for your big day? Is your child?
We take you behind the scenes of filming in Detroit and Cleveland and the important meeting between actor Matthew McConaughey and Rick Wershe.
One might at least have the hope that they will see the thing in context and say to themselves, oh my God, young man, drug offense, look at how much time he spent. That doesn't make sense.
He's a lawyer from some of the country's most high-profile cases, from O.J. Simpson to Patty Hearst. His thoughts on White Boy Rick's freedom right after the break.
Hi, I'm Chuck Feiger.
We'll continue the story now with a man who's considered to be one of the country's great legal minds, involved in a lot of high-profile cases, including O.J. Simpson, Mike Tyson, the Patty Hearst case, and now we should mention the female genital mutilation case that's happening in federal court here in Detroit.
Right, and Kevin has spoken to several experts and insiders about.
I talked to him. I watched as soon as he got off the phone. I said he was pale at best. I mean, he looked.
This is how they try to tie White Boy Rick in with Kwame Kilpatrick. Listen close. Kwame Kilpatrick used to be the mayor of Detroit. You know,
Great. And he told me what happened, and we talked a little bit, and I let him digest it for a couple of days, and I told him, I said, I know you think you're smarter than me, but I've been down this road, and I'm telling you the best way to go. I wish you would have listened to me. 28 years, I mean, he did a lot of damage, but I don't think he deserved 28 years.
Fascinating connection there. Now, White Boy Rick has spent nearly 30 years in prison.
That's 3 decades of history he's watched from behind bars. We put the time in perspective a little later.
And we look at what's next for Richard Wershey Jr., the parole board decision, and more time behind bars in another state. The White Boy Rick story returns right after the break.
Welcome back to the White Boy Rick story. Tonight, Rick Wershey waits for a decision on his future.
And we won't know until next month whether the parole board will vote for him to be released.
And even if the answer is yes, that doesn't mean immediate freedom for Rick Wershey.
So looking ahead to what could happen next, no doubt more intricately than just about anybody else, his attorney, Ralph Maselli. Ralph, very good to have you with us here. You were there for Thursday's hearing.
I was there.
I know it was not an easy day for your client. You need now 6 yes votes to be granted. How do you feel about it going into?
We're, as I've had Rick say, and as I've said all along, we're cautiously optimistic.
Why is it different now? What's changed? Because you've been optimistic before.
Well, I think, first of all, everybody that was involved in this whole thing from a political standpoint 30 years ago have all passed from the scene. Second of all, the people of the country, through their appellate court system, have decided that for nonviolent crimes, even for violent crimes like murder in the first degree, committed by people that were juveniles at the time, you can't just throw the key away. You have to give them a reasonable expectation of release. And I think the parole board is considering that.
Now, Ralph, I know you testified that a man who admitted to killing 30 people was paroled after fewer years than Rick Wershey. Why are the decisions of the parole board, why are their decisions as important in other cases when dealing with this case?
You're going to have to ask them. That's the $64,000.
But I thought this was about this was about Rick Wershey, right? You don't involve other cases.
This parole hearing is about Rick Wershey. All of the people that were involved back in the 80s and 90s in the drug scene, the people that he helped put in jail, like the gang that he helped break, they spent 14 years in jail. He's still in, going on 30 years. The one assassin, he's been on television in this area before. He spent 18 years in. He said that I admit to 30 murders. Why is Rick still in jail?
Talking about some of those cases, a lot of people are worried about Rick's safety if he gets out. How does he stay safe? And other people tell us he's never had a job in his life. He hasn't learned many skills in prison. How does he succeed if he gets out?
First of all, as far as his safety, he recognizes that his life may be in danger. But as he told me several years ago, right now, I don't have a life. I'll take my chances. As far as having a skill, I've been contacted by employers in the area, manufacturers who said, when he gets out, let us know. We'll give him an interview. We will train him. So where normally you learn how to be a machinist at 20, he's going to learn how to be a machinist at 49.
But Rob, we got this other enormous complicating factor. If he gets out, he would have 30 days notice to get out. But then we have these 22 months that he is still due to do in Florida for the selling stolen car theft from inside behind bars. How would that then? You seem to be confident that he wouldn't necessarily have to do that time.
I just heard from a colleague in Florida today that I've been working with, and we're going to have a conversation over the telephone with the prosecuting attorney from Martin.
Yeah, this was my story. This is an interesting case. He was out, but he just recently got caught up in some type of domestic abuse case or whatever. But look into this. I'm gonna put it in the community section so you can see more of the story. This guy, he told on criminals, feds, police, correction officers, family members, everybody. You know, but that's what the game is about, I guess. Standing on Detroit, peace. Keep your hand on the swivel, like, share, and subscribe.